They called it the most terrifying film ever made. But that phrase doesn't come close to the truth. This wasn't just a scary movie. This was a force of nature, a cultural explosion that had people collapsing in theaters, priests rushing to cinemas to calm terrified audiences, and governments stepping in to stop it from spreading. Yes, The Exorcist was banned in entire countries. Yes, it was locked away from home video shelves for decades. And yes, it remains one of the most feared, most respected, and most infamous films in cinema history. But how did one movie about a little girl and two priests ignite global hysteria? How did it terrify even hardened moviegoers, leaving some in hospitals and others in church pews praying for safety? Let's step back to 1973, when William Friedkin unleashed a nightmare that the world was not prepared for. But the film wasn't just shocking for its story, it was shocking for how real it felt. The makeup and special effects, led by Dick Smith, turned a sweet young actress into something audiences could barely look at. The sound design used pig squeals, distorted voices, and bizarre recordings to crawl under viewers' skin. Even Friedkin's directing tactics were extreme. He famously fired guns on set to scare actors, slapped people before takes, and pushed everyone to their psychological limits. This was no ordinary horror movie. This was an assault on the senses. In northern Iraq, priest Langster Marin takes part in an archaeological dig in the ancient ruins of Hatra. During the dig, he finds a stone talisman of a winged being that evokes a concerned look on his face. He then visits an ancient statue of the same being, silently confronting it. In Georgetown, Washington, D.C., actress Chris McNeil is starring in a film directed by her friend Burke Dennings. McNeil, along with her 12-year-old daughter Reagan, rents a luxurious house with hired help. Meanwhile, Father Damien Karras, a psychiatrist who counsels Georgetown University priests, visits his ailing mother in New York City. He later confides to a colleague that he is having a crisis of faith. Chris hosts a party with Karras's friend, Father Dyer, who explains Karras's role as counselor and notes his mother's recent death. Reagan, seemingly unwell, appears and urinates before Chris comforts her. Reagan's bed shakes violently after Chris returns her to it. Later, Dyer consoles Karras, guilty at not having been with his mother when she died. Reagan's personality becomes violent, and medical tests find no physical cause. During a house call, Reagan exhibits abnormal strength and adult behavior, and speaks in an otherworldly voice. One night, Chris finds the house empty except for a sleeping Reagan. Dennings had been left with her, but is found dead at the bottom of a set of public stairs that begin beneath Reagan's window. Detective William Kinderman questions Karras, confiding that Dennings' head was turned backward. Kinderman tells Chris that the only plausible explanation for Dennings' death is that he was pushed from Reagan's window. As Kinderman leaves, a scarred and bloody Reagan has another violent fit, furiously masturbating with a crucifix, turning her head backward and speaking in the voice of Dennings. She is confined to her bedroom and strapped to the bed. Now convinced that her daughter is possessed, Chris seeks out Karras, who visits Regan. The possessed Regan claims to be the devil and vomits into Karras's face while speaking in tongues. The demon says it will remain in Regan until she is dead. At night, Chris's assistant Sharon calls Karras to the house, where the words "help me" appear on Reagan's stomach. He concludes that an exorcism is warranted. His superior grants permission on the condition that an experienced priest lead the ritual. Marin, having performed an exorcism before, is summoned. Marin arrives at the house. As the two priests read from the Roman ritual, the demon curses them. The priests rest and Marin, shaking, takes the nitroglycerin. Karras enters the bedroom where the demon appears as his mother, perturbing Karras despite his denials. Marin excuses Karras and continues the exorcism by himself. Chris approaches Karras and asks if Reagan will die. He assures her that she will not and re-enters the room, finding Marin dead from a heart attack while Reagan watches and laughs. Karras beats the possessed Reagan in a fit of rage and demands that the demon take him instead. The demon rips the medallion of Saint Joseph from Karras's neck and possesses him, freeing Reagan in the process. Karras jumps out the window, tumbling down the stone stairs outside. Chris and Kinderman enter the room. Chris embraces the freed Reagan, and Kinderman surveys the scene. Outside, Dyer administers the dying Karras his last rites. The MacNeils prepare to leave, and Father Dyer says goodbye. Despite having no memory of her ordeal, Regan, moved by the sight of Dyer's clerical collar, kisses him on the cheek. As the MacNeils leave, Chris gives Dyer the medallion found in Regan's room. Dyer briefly examines the steps where Karras died before walking away. The backlash was instant and explosive. Church groups protested outside theaters. Religious leaders called it blasphemy, an insult to Catholicism and Christianity itself. Some even argued that the movie wasn't just about demons, but could summon real ones into the audience. Reports poured in from screenings. People fainted, vomited, and had panic attacks. Paramedics were called to theaters. One woman even broke her jaw when she collapsed trying to flee a cinema. Another viewer allegedly had a miscarriage. Theaters began handing out barf bags as if it were part of the marketing. And in some places, priests were literally stationed in lobbies to bless or comfort audience members. Governments didn't hesitate. In Ireland, the film was flat out banned. In Singapore, it was deemed too extreme for public release. In Malaysia, screenings were outlawed for years. Even in the United Kingdom, where it technically passed the censors, local councils refused to allow it to be shown. But perhaps the most notorious ban came not in theaters, but at home. In Britain, The Exorcist was denied a home video release for decades. For over 25 years, owning an official VHS copy was impossible. It was treated as a danger to society, locked away like contraband. Only in 1999, on the cusp of the new millennium, did the ban finally lift. And then there was the curse. During filming, a fire broke out on set, destroying large parts of the house set but leaving Regan's bedroom untouched. Ellen Burstyn suffered a spinal injury during a stunt that left her with lifelong pain. Actors and crew members reported strange accidents. Even deaths connected to people close to the production fueled the belief that the film itself was haunted. All of this only deepened the fear and the bans. But here's the twist. Bans don't always kill movies. Sometimes they make them immortal. Despite all the controversy, The Exorcist became a box office juggernaut. It earned over $400 million worldwide, making it one of the most successful horror films ever made. It was nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 2, proving that even Hollywood couldn't ignore its power. It also redefined horror. Before The Exorcist, horror films were often dismissed as cheap thrills. After The Exorcist, they were seen as legitimate art. It opened the door for serious directors, big budgets, and deeper themes in horror cinema. The film also changed culture. The very idea of demonic possession became mainstream. The image of Regan's green vomit, her spinning head, and her chilling voice entered the collective imagination. Countless films, TV shows, and even comedies reference The Exorcist to this day. And perhaps most chilling, the movie inspired a real-world rise in exorcism requests. Priests reported being overwhelmed by people believing they were possessed, and the Catholic Church had to address the phenomenon head-on. In short, The Exorcist didn't just scare audiences, it changed them. Oh, why was The Exorcist banned? Because it wasn't just a movie, it was a mirror held up to our deepest fears. Fear of losing control, fear of evil in the world, fear that faith might not be enough. For some, it was too much to handle. For others, it was irresistible. And for all of us, it remains one of the most iconic, most feared, and most legendary films in history. 50 years later, the power of The Exorcist hasn't faded. It still shocks, it still terrifies, and it still stands as proof that sometimes the scariest things aren't in the dark. They're up on the screen, waiting for us to press play. Because The Exorcist wasn't just banned, it was unleashed. And once you've seen it, you can never unsee it.